Most people don't actually know how to rest. They think rest means scrolling a feed, watching videos in the background, or getting stuck in endless series. But here's the problem. The brain doesn't actually rest in those moments. It keeps processing information and spending energy. That's why sometimes, after resting, you feel even more drained than after work. Real productivity is not about pushing yourself until you're completely exhausted. It's about knowing when to step out of the system, so your brain can properly reset. And today, I'm going to show you several strategic rest techniques that actually restore focus and energy. Block 1. In neuroscience, there's something called the default mode network. Simply put, it's the state where your brain runs in the background. It only activates when you are truly doing nothing. No scrolling your phone, no listening to music, no switching attention every few seconds. And in this state, the brain starts organizing thoughts, processing experiences, and finding unexpected solutions. In fact, your best ideas don't come during active work. They come when you finally stop flooding your mind with information. So the first technique is called vacuum. 15 minutes. No content, no phone, no music, no notifications. Just silence, a walk, or staring out the window. Yes, it sounds too simple, but sometimes the brain doesn't need a new stimulus. It needs space to process what's already there. Block 2. There's another issue. Most people work far longer than their brain can actually maintain effective focus. The brain works in cycles of roughly 90 minutes. After that, performance drops. And if you keep pushing through that point with caffeine and willpower, you enter a state of toxic productivity. You might still be working, but the quality of your decisions drops significantly. That's why the second technique is the 90-15 rule. After 1.5 hours of work, take a full 15-minute break from the task. And an important detail, the break should be the opposite of your work. If you've been sitting at a computer, move your body. If you've been doing physical work, stop and sit in silence instead. Changing context literally reduces the load on your brain. Block 3. And finally, dopamine overload. Why do many people feel exhausted after weekends? Because instead of recovering, the brain is flooded with a constant stream of cheap dopamine. Social media, series, short videos, fast food, notifications. The brain doesn't rest. It stays in a constantly overstimulated state. That's why the third technique is the analog evening. 2 hours before sleep, remove screens completely. Information flow and bright light prevent the brain from properly switching into recovery mode. Instead, do something simple and calm. Read a physical book, go for a walk, clean your space, or write your thoughts on paper. These seemingly boring activities are actually what allow the brain to recover properly. Conclusion. Strategic rest is a skill almost nobody is taught. It's much easier to work yourself into exhaustion and pretend you're being productive. It's harder to know when to stop. But that's exactly what separates people who maintain long-term energy and focus from those who constantly run on empty. Try starting with just 15 minutes of silence a day. No phone, no content. Just give your brain space, and you'll be surprised how much faster problems start solving themselves. Problems you used to sit on for hours. Subscribe if you relate to the philosophy of smart productivity.